Welcome to Emerge and Empower Podcast TV, a platform where resilience meets transformation. Here, we amplify voices that have faced trials, trauma, and adversity, stories that inspire hope, healing, and empowerment. Every episode brings raw, unfiltered conversations with individuals who have risen from hardship, embracing faith, strength, and purpose. Join us as we break the silence, uplift one another, and emerge stronger together. New episodes air Wednesdays at 6 p.m. English and Saturdays at 6 p.m. with select Saturdays in Creole for our Haitian audience.
Hello, all, and welcome. Welcome again to another episode of Emerge and Empower. But this is a special segment called the Shemergence Virtual Conference 2025. We are happy that you are here. And what I'm asking you to do, because we're going to go right in, we're going to dive right in. So what you need to do is find that comfortable spot that you can watch or listen to us. Go ahead and share the links, subscribe if you haven't already to Emerge and Empower at emergeandempowertv.com. Emergeandempowertv.com. You can go to Emerge and Empower with DrLinJ on YouTube, and you can find us on Apple and all of the audio podcasts. This is a special segment, once again, that's called Shemergence, okay, Shemergence Virtual Conference 2025. Now, the very first conference we had was in 2020, right in the midst of COVID. And we had individuals that came on to share their stories of their emergence. Ever since then, I also was on the verge of launching my very first book that was called Shemergence, I Am She. And wow, that book made such a tremendous impact that we had to get it translated. It is translated in French and it's also translated in Spanish. Now, after all of that, people said, "How did you do it? I'm reading it. I can't believe it." So I had to share with them the words that I affirmed myself and also the prayers that I prayed. So we had a affirmation journal and a prayer journal that was also birthed all around that one first book. The journey continued in a book called The Shift. This is now me married and living my life. Is it my best life? Was it the Cinderella story? I was still trying to discover who I was. I was still bleeding. I was existing. I was lost, confused. All right. I shared that with you. So go back, read I Am She, which is book one, go to book two, which is The Shift. But all of this, if I am doing a virtual conference, obviously there's yet another book. Many of you have been waiting, but I don't think this is what you was waiting for. This book is called Unholy at the Table. It talks about moments where I felt unworthy of love, unworthy of healing, and yet I was in church. I was ministering. I was doing all of this, but felt like I was a stranger. All right. So I take you through that journey so that you can understand that though it might look like we have it all put together, we truly don't have it all together. Healing is every day. Healing is a process. Healing is not overnight. So if there are any of you that are watching here today who think, well, I talked about it, there's more. After you've talked about it, there's more that you need to do. You need to break that down and you need to find a coach. You need to find a mental health coach. Whatever it is that you need to connect. You have to invest in your life because it is important. So we have many women that will be on the panel on today that will be sharing their moments where they felt undeserving, unworthy, but what did they do about it? Did they stay there or did they pick up themselves to do better with their lives? So on today, as we will be bringing each of them onto the set, what I want you to do is go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Share. I'm waiting. Share. As you share, I'll see if you share because it shows me whenever you share. So go ahead and share. Do not let Shemergence Virtual Conference be your best kept secret. It is here for the world. And it doesn't matter what continent your connect is on. As long as you're playing it, someone will see it. Stay tuned.
Remember when coffee was just coffee? A routine sip, part of the 2 billion cups consumed daily, enough to fill an Olympic swimming pool every 3 minutes. Same old flavor, same old routine. For centuries, 75% of coffee drinkers have settled for mediocrity, masking the taste with sugar, syrups, and overpriced add-ons. But what if coffee didn't just promise to be amazing? What if it actually was? Introducing Alive Coffee, the first coffee that tastes as good as it makes you feel. Meet the coffee that thinks beyond the cup. Bold, smooth, alive. Made from expertly roasted top-quality beans, Alive Coffee is smooth, rich, and shockingly delicious. Stop drinking May, start drinking Alive. The coffee that delivers just like the 90% who won't start their day without it. Alive Coffee. Wake up, take over. Feel alive.
All right, so we have our panel right here on the Shemergence Virtual Conference. Yay! We are here. We are healed. We are joyous. We are on the other side. You know, some people say we're outside. Yeah, we're literally outside. And we're thankful for this, where we were at a time where silence was all we had to survive. But as we move to the Shemergence virtual conference, we'll be talking about those moments where you felt you were not deserving of love or worthy of healing. So, on today, we have a few of our guest panelists as they would be sharing their personal journeys or in their professional expertise, what they have come across through helping individuals get on the front row seat of their lives. So, right now, we're going to start off with Jen. Jen, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, I'm Pink Hair Jen, and I am a wedding photographer, conceptual artist. I'm also a speaker. But beyond all that, I'm also just a creative that wants to connect with everybody. And I just love using my voice and opening up to people as well as hearing their stories. So that's who I am.
All right. Thank you so much. We love the hair. We love the hair.
I'm Marquila Hinton. I'm the CEO of The Faith Edit, which is a boutique publishing agency that helps kingdom entrepreneurs launch into the marketplace with what I believe is the easiest business to start, a book.
Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Gladian Rivera. I am the founder and CEO of Obsidian Rising. My company supports women through career alignment and structured burnout recovery approaches. However, my background, which is what I will be extrapolating for today's session, is having 20 years of experience working with crime victims, and I will be tapping into that as a resource for you all.
All right, thank you so much. And as you see it here on today, all of these women are CEOs. They are in the business of betterment, healing, empowerment, inspiration, from photography to writing the books, putting your story out there, to chipping down those walls that you've put up. Because when you put walls up, people can't get in, and you too, you can't get out. So each of these women are here to help individuals get on the front row seat of their life, whether it's the moment that you want to shine, the moment that you want to speak, or the moment that you want to heal. And healing is beautiful. All right. Healing is beautiful because once you've healed, you learn to enjoy, like smell the roses. You really want to go outside. You really want to explore new things. You are no longer existing, but instead you are living. I once was in a place of gloom. I did not draw any attention to myself whatsoever. I would not wear this very bright color that I'm wearing today. Healing has brought all of that about. And then we can look at Jen. Her healing is showing you she's got a fuchsia pink hair, which is my favorite color. Right? I'm not, when I grow up, I want to be just like Jen so I could do my hair pink. I just love it. Okay. So we're going to come right in here because we've talked about it already. The book will be launching in just a couple of weeks, and it talks about that feeling of unworthiness, unwanted, and uninvited. So this virtual platform is going to take each and every person or those in the expert field as to what that was like as they experience that or help individuals come out of that place. So we're going to start off with the very first question that talks about what was the moment you realized your silence was hurting more than helping? Can we start off with Jan?
Yes. And this was the year, I know the moment and I know the year. In 2018, I was at a photo conference, and it's one of my most favorite. I still go back every year. And the funny thing is it's called Promoting Passion. So it's a space that's open for people to come with whatever, however they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing an exercise with each other, paired up by two. And I realized the person I was paired up with was asking me questions about me. And it had been so long since I felt like somebody cared about me to ask me about me, because I was so busy doing things and connecting with everybody else. Nobody bothered to ask me about me. And so when I realized crying in the bathroom, what I was missing was simply my voice. I had not shared myself with anybody. I'm talking about the deep stuff that really connects us together. I was having a hard time communicating with my husband because he didn't understand what I was going through. And I realized that silence was most definitely shutting me off from the world. And you know, when you're shut off from everybody, that's a deep, dark place to be. And that's kind of where I was in that time of my life, at a photo convention, at the most creative space you could think of. But I was so alone, so alone. I felt so alone and so shut off. And so that's exactly when I realized I came home to get help. I finished out the conference, but I came home to get help. You know what I mean? It's like, it was an instant, if I don't fix this now and address it now, I'm going to die.
Mm-hmm. So was it the atmosphere that was triggering, something that was said that was triggering?
No, it was the person who asked me questions about myself. Just that's all she did was ask me questions. And I was like, wait, you're asking me a question about myself? Like, I felt seen immediately. Like, we don't understand how powerful just questions can be to talk to somebody. It's not just how are you? It's like, well, what do you think about that? I'm like, whoa, I'm a person. You're treating me like a real person and I can answer you?
Right.
And I answered her. And then after I cried in the bathroom, I came back out and I said, you have no idea what you just did for me. You have no idea how much I needed that. And that's how I realized what I was missing. I was like, I'm missing real human contact, just contact. So shut off. And I was just like, wow.
So your silence was hurting you.
My silence
in that silence, it was so loud that you realized you needed help.
Yeah, my silence was literally killing me on the inside. Yeah.
Wow.
Literally the word that says killing me softly.
Literally.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's go to Makila.
So I talk about shrinking a lot in my community. I think a lot of times, especially women, we're taught that being silent or you serving other people is how you can be a good person. And a lot of times we don't realize how deceptive humility is when it's rooted in insecurity, right? So we're calling ourselves being these humble, serving, caring, loving people. But I tell people all the time, if you can't give yourself that kind of honor, that kind of love, then whatever you're doing for other people is really coming from a place that's not sincere. So I found myself, my daughter, being pregnant with my daughter is the moment where I realized, like, oh crap, insecurity is a problem. Like, oh my gosh, but I tell this story all the time. I have a ginormous mirror in my living room that I cannot avoid. If you're like going to the kitchen, if it's just there all the time. And I walked past the mirror one day and I growled. I was like, ugh. And like all of the negative things I've been saying to myself, all those bad things that I was thinking, they had never actually come out of my mouth. The growling was like when all of the things that were inside of my head were external. So it was that moment where I said, oh, okay, hold on. Now the cat's out the bag. The big hairy beast is no longer just hidden. It's real. It's in front of me. So I had to really do some work. And my dad's a pastor, my granddaddy's a pastor, my mom's a chaplain. I'm a good old church girl. So you know
You're a
what we do.
PK.
Yes. You know what we do when we feel like we don't know what to do, we go to God, we go to prayer. And God showed me the story of Adam and Eve in a new way that I had never experienced. And he
Hmm.
showed me that Adam and Eve, they were never supposed to see themselves.
Right.
And he looked at me, and the Holy Spirit helped me to be able to understand that the reason why I was growling at myself, the reason why I have been saying so many things in silence in my thought space, is because I had been looking at myself with eyes that were broken.
Hmm.
And God began to deal with me about how I can be free in seeing myself and seeing other people, and how it's not my job to shrink or to downplay or to even change myself for other things or other people. That my job is to fulfill the assignment on my life. So that moment, the growling was like the catalyst to keep all the silent things.
Hmm.
Um, but it also really helped me to be able to understand a lot more about who I was as a human. And so dealing with my own insecurities, mastering the way that I saw myself gave me space to be able to help others, not only deal with their confidence, but to help them launch their assignments. So I do what I do now because I realized how my journey was so helpful to me. I wrote a book. That confidence workbook was powerful. We did workshops. And so
Hmm.
now I do everything that I do based off of that experience of me coming out of a really dark place. Yeah.
Wow. I think in photography, right? And I also think in song. So
Mhm.
while you were talking, the what I saw before me was that song says, "I'm looking at the man in the mirror,
All right.
and
Yes.
I'm asking him
To
to
change.
change his ways."
Yeah.
So you really had that moment at
Yes.
that time. You
Yes.
understand?
Hmm.
Yes. So we're gonna go to Miss Rivera, who's gonna present us the professional perspective of this.
Thank you. So I see silence as a tool that perpetrators, whether they could be batterers in in domestic violence or now known as interpersonal violence cases,
Hmm.
utilize to maintain power and control over their victims.
Hmm.
That is also a tool that it's typically used in households where I don't know if you've heard the saying, what happens at home stays at home.
Right.
You don't share any to anyone outside about our dirty laundry. That
Hmm.
is also a way to maintain certain information be kept at home. And so, in cases where you see sexual victimizations that have happened in the house, there has been a culture of silence throughout.
Hmm.
And essentially, you want to have a sense of discernment. What is it that is keeping you silent? But
Hmm.
we also want to distinguish it with what is it that is a boundary. Obviously, we don't walk around the world and talking about all of our problems. We want to have boundaries, but it's a key differentiation from being silent, that
Hmm.
is a projection from someone else to enhance their control over us. Now, I'm going to shift in the workplace for a little bit because I've also been talking a lot about manipulative tactics that happen in the workplace as a way to control individuals, subdue them, and ultimately leading them into a path towards burnout.
Hmm.
And gaslighting and silence are those two major tools. It's, we didn't say that. I don't know what you're talking about. Who told you that?
Hmm.
And so I always get tell all of my clients, make sure to keep track of the conversation, who was there, the date, the time, the exchange altogether. Ultimately, how did that make you feel? And email all those details to yourself on an email because it is going to have a date and a timestamp.
Timestamp.
That's very good. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. That is really great. I picked this up as a child, for example. I noticed that whenever I have a positive or negative experience, I would pay attention to the time or what was happening. And then I would write it down. Whether I was listening to a sermon at church, but within that sermon, I picked up something that the speaker did not say, right? So I write down the time, who was speaking, or maybe something that they said. Later on, when I go back, I'm like, wow, that was 3 years ago. And now this word is coming back to me. So it's important, even to this day, even when I wake up. I don't know about you guys, but I never sleep into the day. I sleep in the new day, right? So I'm always up. I have a prayer line that goes from 11 to 12. So I'm up. Once that's over, it takes me a good 2.5 to 3 hours to unwind. That's me. And it wasn't until I went through, I thought I was all healed. I thought I had covered every basis in my life. And I went through one of those programs in order to mentor other women. I had to go through the program. And the woman was talking about her experience at night, and she was triggered just by going to sleep. It wasn't until then that I realized my not sleeping from 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, when other kids were taking naps, I was afraid to fall asleep because every time I fell asleep, that's when the enemy crept in. So I took this all the way into my adult until early this year for me to come to a realization of your problem isn't the caffeine in your coffee.
Yeah.
Okay. It is the fact that I didn't realize this is why I wasn't sleeping. So then I learned to get creative when I'm awake. I write, I use that time, right? But the time stamp that you just said is very crucial because it takes us back to so much. It brings so much in revelation. It causes you to pay attention to your environment, to go beyond the regular. Somebody just saw yellow, but you saw yellow, pink, you saw it all and what was happening, what was unfolding in the scene. And that is truly uh, what happens in the place of silent. Even though people are silent, it's really, really loud, right? It's really loud. The person might seem silent. That's why we can touch this. When people have mental health, people think mental health look like somebody with a needle sticking out their arm or they on drugs and they're drooling. There are people who are the life of the party and they're going through they're silent, but they're literally loud in their noise. There's body language, things, that we give off. And those who are experts or experienced can say, there's something going on there. And you want to pull on to that, right?
Yeah.
So that is leading me into how did unspoken expectations or family dynamics influence your healing journey? Because it's all unspoken at first. Family wise can silence you, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my case, when I told my story, I didn't get the reaction that I thought that would happen. So everything that happened after that, I kept it to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're talking about the unspoken expectations of family dynamics. How did that influence your healing journey? Anyone can chime in.
I know for me, my ex-husband and I have a fabulous co-parenting relationship, but we were terrible in marriage. And so I tell the story all the time that um, it wasn't necessarily disapproval or he didn't understand that I needed to be healed. It's just that I think a lot of people outside of me, they perceived me as a person who was already confident, right? So they felt like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, Marquila, you're fine. And I'm like, no, I growled at myself in the mirror, guys. And so I think a lot of times people who are comfortable with their trauma, um, they are okay with you staying in your trauma. And so
Right.
I found that I had a few people who they were just uncomfortable that I was now addressing the problems in within me because they didn't want to address their problems. And so a lot of my healing had to be kind of, I don't want to say like in your face, but it very much so like I don't care if you don't think I need more help. I
Mm-hmm.
I need help. I feel like I need help. I'm gonna go get that help. But I also think that there's like positive expectations. Like my
Mm-hmm.
daughter was the reason why I was so insecure, but then also she was the reason why it was so necessary for me to heal. And of course, she didn't have expectations like, of having a mommy who was going to be a publisher or any of that, but she did have expectations for me to get up every day and feed her. And she was a baby, so I had
Right.
to take care of her. And so on that journey of healing, I having to take care of her as a human, stewarding her, newborn life, really made it a requirement for me to stand up against some of the things that wanted me to be complacent. It was like I have this whole little gift. She's this little diamond in my hand, and I can't be some half-hearted version of myself just because
Mm-hmm.
people think that it's enough when I know it's not enough. I hope that makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and I wanted to echo something you said earlier, Michaela, about the expectations of you always got to put yourself below everybody else. You got to go serve everybody and all these environments and communities that you're connected with. So, what I had pretty much grown up in is, yes, I had a great loving family, but because of what we were taught from a certain perspective of, well, somebody else always has it worse, so you should just be thankful for where you are.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, well, okay, so in that frame of mind, I'm going to shut down anything I'm thinking or feeling, and I'm just going to pray for somebody else. That does me no favors going into adulthood.
No.
It didn't do me any favors in how to connect with people or my future husband at the time. I wasn't even married at this time, and I'm seeing this stuff, and I'm like, well, I'm just being a good person by shoving it all down. And I even had people come up to me saying, Jen, we feel like you just shove stuff down. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, we're supposed to just get over it and then, go help somebody else, because you need to forget your troubles to go help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've realized in this healing process is that so many of us are stuck in that area that we forget that we're a human too. And I think that was the influential part of this culture that we've all been a part of,
Mm-hmm.
has told us you need to forget yourself and go serve everybody else, because once you do, you'll forget you ever had a problem in the first place.
Right.
And I think there is only a tiny bit of truth of that, because I find now the more I express my frustration or anger or joy or anything, I'm expressing the full human experience.
Yes.
Instead of just suppressing it and then it getting bigger and bigger and darker and darker. And so now I'm at this point where I'm able to speak with my family differently, and specifically my husband and my kid, because now I have an 8-year-old and I'm learning how to navigate her childhood through my past childhood. Talk about healing factors.
Yes.
Is coming up when you've got a little kid in your life.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the culture and the dynamics of how I grew up and to who I am now and what I've been led to, and how I've unraveled all of these things that I've believed for so long, that my feelings are going to be there no matter what. It's better to deal with them now and then have them not build up and then explode somewhere. But at the time, I didn't know how to deal with them. Like, there's not a book that says, here's how you deal with your emotions. So that for me has been part of my healing, of that dynamics of kind of like, nobody has a clue, and then you figure it out. And then you kind of go back to those people and try to teach them too, if they're willing to learn, right?
Right.
Especially in your family dynamics, but genetic family or chosen family, whatever family you call family.
Right.
Yeah, that was my experience so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true. It's so true. Ms. Rivera?
So I had developed a program in one of the correctional systems in my state, and essentially it was to help address the impact of sexual victimization for the women in that particular setting. Not necessarily that they were victimized in the prison system, but previous histories of trauma resulting from sexual victimization.
Mm-hmm.
And so the best way that I can put it is on a spectrum. So there is the under expectations from family and the over expectations from family members.
Mm-hmm.
So what I saw is that when it comes down to the over expectations, silence was also a tool that the person self-imposed to not disappoint.
Yeah.
Whereas in family dynamics that were borderline negligent to the children, and the children grew up without any expectations whatsoever,
Mm-hmm.
it did a harm to them because in a lot of ways they perceive themselves as lesser than. And
Yes.
so on both spectrums and both ends, I noticed that there was a lot of rates of victimizations. And so it really doesn't matter where you fall in that spectrum. If you have someone that identifies you as a victim who has predatory needs, and if and the likelihood that you've been sexually victimized in the past increases for a second type of victimization, those
Yes.
family dynamics that are dysfunctional serve as a catalyst for all these awful things that happen at home. Now, I'm only talking about sexual predation, but I'm also
Right.
going to talk about interpersonal violence. I'm going to refer from this point on as domestic violence for those that haven't heard about it as IPV.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, again, you see children who are raised in households where there's a lot of domestic violence, there's a lot of abuse, and they're forced to stay quiet. That dysfunction, that type of abuse, forces the child to see things from a different perspective,
Yeah.
right? So they're not going to respect mom. They're not going to see mom as someone worthy of because they see dad doing this to mom. And there's been cases that I've seen where the father used the children to also victimize the mother.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true. And it's actually a cycle because when you look at it through generations and family, because it wasn't resolved in this generation, it continues in the next, and all it does is it gets worse. Then it
Mm-hmm.
becomes something like this is our way, this is everyone. It becomes norm. If it doesn't go this way, so everyone started looking at it. For example, I'm going to go back to something Jen said as you relate to your daughter who was 8 years old. I did not realize until my daughter was 6, going on 7 years old, that I realized it was not my fault.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I'm looking at her innocence. I was like, there's no way if someone did this to her that she was dressed a certain way, she talked a certain way, there was nothing about her. Okay. And it was at that time that I was able to say it was not my fault because I'm always a person that's very transparent. So I share, right? Some people say overshare. I don't feel so. I feel like there are things I don't say. So I'm not oversharing. I'm sharing to an extent, right? What you need to know, right? Because obviously nobody know about a lot of things until I wrote about it in my book. So obviously I was never oversharing. I was just sharing as much as I thought. I try to be as transparent as possible. So the day that I realized it is because I was dealing with a narcissistic husband's behaviors who kept saying I wasn't the one that broke you, in a sense like you weren't a virgin when I met you.
Mm.
And that hung over my head. Or whatever the mother is, the child is.
Mm.
So there was always back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But I got tired this day. And I remember going into the bathroom to get a bottle of pills, close the door. I was tired. I was done. The thoughts of suicide, it was like, okay, this is D-Day. Okay? Because I was tired of the negativity. You're nothing. You'll never be anything. That's why I talk about the unworthiness, not feeling worth. If you are someone, it's because I'm in your life. I'm the best thing that'll ever happen to you. Yada, yada, all of this, right? And so I took the pills and I'm pouring it, okay, and I'm shaking. So it falls down. And my sister was outside the bathroom, hears the pill bottle fall, right? So she's knocking, open the door, open the door. I didn't care. I was like gone. Mentally, I was like, I checked out,
Mm.
right? And then he was able to open the door. It didn't matter who was at the door. But you know who I saw?
Your daughter.
I saw my daughter.
Yeah.
And I was like, she don't need to grow up in a life without a mom.
Mhm.
She need the better version of me.
Mhm.
And when I looked at her, I started shouting, it was never my fault. I didn't do it. I kept saying it over. My sister said I must have said it 50 times. It was never my fault. It was never my fault. It was never my fault. That was when that realization came in. Now, dealing with wordy, feeling worth and all of that, I was still feeling worthless, but at least I meant something to one person. So I held on to that one person from that day on. I said, I'm getting up every day because of her. I'm getting up every day because of my kids. So I was existing before, I'm existing more, but now I have a reason to live. Okay? So when you talked about identifying with your 8-year-old daughter, that took me to that place that I carried for 28 years at that time. Okay? So there's a lot of unraveling that's happening as we are healing. A lot of self-discovery. I just told you, I just found out my reason for not sleeping at night was not caffeine. I found that out this year and I'm 50. You understand?
Yeah.
So it keeps unfolding and unfolding, and you're learning and I love it. So now I said, you know what? This is the time of my creative juices. That's why I'm up. I no longer say, you understand what I'm saying? Oh my goodness. It's a beautiful place. So that's leading me into what's stopping you from speaking sooner, and what finally give you the courage to share.
I can take the lead on this question if that's okay.
Go ahead.
So one of the, again, looking at it from a victim witness coordinator previously, when it came down to victims of domestic violence, they lived in constant fear because of their partners. The abuse more often than not escalates anytime a woman is trying to separate from their partner. I believe statistically it takes approximately 7 different attempts before the woman can safely separate from the partner, depending on the severity of the abuse.
Wow.
More often than not, also, when you look at the police reports, when it comes down which are the most dangerous types of police responses, you're going to also discover that whenever the police reports to a household where there is domestic violence, the likelihood of there being a officer homicide or murder suicide also increases.
Yes.
So when it comes down to victims of domestic violence, the fear is real and it's very legitimate. And more often than not, that is why they don't talk. That's why they don't speak. The problem is that they hold everything inside, and it's almost like you're putting drops in a cup of water until it overflows.
Yeah.
And a person cannot sustain abuse for a prolonged time. Now, similarly, it's the same thing with victims of sexual violence, depending on who the perpetrator is, depending on the age of the victim, whether or not they were groomed for a prolonged time. Generally, if you find children that have been groomed, they were groomed by someone they respected, they were groomed by someone who they loved, they were groomed by someone who made promises to them, but also established that code of silence.
Yeah.
For instance, don't tell mommy or daddy because I won't be able to bring gifts to you. Don't tell mommy or daddy because then I'll go arrested, and you don't want that. And so the child lives with that fear that if they speak up, it is going to harm the very person they think in their very young mind that is going to harm someone that is good, because they have not yet seen or distinguished the harm that they're dealing with. And so again, it really depends on the person, on the scenario, or the type of abuse. In the workplace, similarly, people choose not to speak because of retaliation. People choose not to speak because they may feel that they will not be promoted or ascended up the ranks. And so more often than not, people stay quiet when there are abusive dynamics in the workplace, that you could potentially even have, like you said, a narcissist as a leader who is the main puppeteer controlling people. And the victim is seeing all of this, but they are made to feel like they're crazy.
Right.
right? And so again, I talk a lot about this in my
Yeah,
sessions as
you
a
could stay right there in that one. You
I talk about this in my sessions. As a matter of fact, I created a web app called Athena Rising, and it's free because I wanted people to have access to information relevant to what are the toxic dynamics in the workplace that you find. How can you navigate them? What are the strategies to navigate someone who demonstrates these toxic dynamics? And I'm using toxic, but in reality, I'm talking about the individuals who are covert narcissists, who
hmm
utilize Machiavellian tools, and they maintain, again, that power and control. And so that tool that I created also talks about how to set and maintain proper boundaries, because that is the first line of defense, and a good defense is a fantastic offense. But
Right.
ultimately, having those tools readily available to you is going to help you in identify and address burnout. And
hmm
so that tool is freely available. It's on my website, and it was there to support individuals navigating those toxic systems, toxic dynamics in the workplace.
So
Yeah.
what is the name of that? So I could put that here.
Athena Rising,
AT.
Athena, Rising as the rising star, Rising.
Mhm.
Athena Rising,
Right.
and
So
that's an
when
app.
that is a web app within my website. My website is Obsidian, like the stone, rising llc.com. You're going to see the menu, the main banner. You click on it, you sign up, and you can access all these resources that are pulled together.
Wow, you've brought definitely different perspectives here: work, environment, domestic, narcissist. Again, everyone has a reason as to why they were stopped. The reason why I asked is because people say, "Why did you wait now? Why didn't you say that this was 20 years ago? That was
Right.
30 years ago. Why are you just telling this now, ladies?"
Yeah. I think I love the idea that um, we're not just waiting, we're not just holding these things because we're like waiting for the moment, right? Like I think a lot of authors, people who don't agree with the story that comes out, it's like, well, you just waited until like
Mm,
they're villains at home, like
right.
with an evil laugh. I think that for me and for most of my clients, um, you just get sick of not obeying God. I know for me, it was like God had been shoving me in front of people. He had been telling me like, stop acting like you don't know who I made you. I keep
Right.
showing her to you in dreams. I keep whispering things about who you actually are in your
hmm
ear. So I just kind of was tired of sitting in a place where my life didn't look like what I could see in my
Right.
imagination. Um, but I also think what made me kind of finally pull the trigger is that I had actually mastered silence in a way that was positive. Like we've been talking about silence in all the ways that it kind of is negative, but for most people who I know who are really struggling with their mental wellness or with their purpose or their assignment, silence is the worst thing for them.
Right.
Right? They'll like, don't put me in a room by myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Until I could really learn how to sit with God and there be no noise and there be nothing but just me and nothing, I
Right.
really was not healed enough to do anything in front of people. Even though I knew the tools, right? I had made the book, I had the program, I'd done all the things I should have known how to be confident.
hmm
I tell people all the time, it took me a year to get the confidence to sell the confidence class because I didn't have
Wow.
it. But when I learned, like, okay, silence is really a place that I can step into and have safety, and I can cultivate that safety within myself,
hmm
regardless of what my family thinks, my husband thinks, the pressure, regardless of what I feel about myself. If I could learn to master silence, make it a safe space for me, then I can do some really powerful and fantastic rapid healing. Because I feel
Right.
like a lot more happens when you can sit silently than
Right.
when you're like running around doing all the movement and all the things. Um,
Yeah.
so for me, it was like it took me a really long time because I just hadn't gotten sick and tired yet. But then I got sick and tired. And when I got sick and tired, I started to do the work to master the silence.
Yeah.
And silence wasn't a bad thing anymore. Silence was now a guided place that I could go into and hear from the Holy Spirit and from God and from my intuition and from my gut. I could go and be creative. All kinds of, for lack of a better word, sexy things could happen,
Right, right.
and it not be a bad thing.
Yes.
But it be a safe space. So those are the things that I think helped me to actually activate the things that would move me out of the place of silence.
Jen?
Yeah, I was writing notes because I wanted to be sure I hit everything. So what I was writing about my personal experience is that the reason I didn't speak out sooner is because I had built such a great case against myself. It was easy to not speak up.
Oh my.
And the interesting thing and I'm a movie buff, so I love how movies can help you articulate what you can't see or say. And so in the movie Pretty Woman, we all know what she did as a profession, and we all know where she was as a person.
Right.
And she's laying there saying the bad stuff is easier to believe.
Right.
That is what I had built against myself, is everything against me. So I didn't have a voice at that point. Mm-hmm. And where the shift started happening, where I was starting to recognize where I was ashamed about things, I was definitely feeling unworthy at that point. Because if you've built such a big case against yourself, you're very worthless. You have nothing to offer the world. And that's kind of where I had gotten to at that point. But what I didn't also realize is the previous times before that, a couple of years before that, when we tried to start a family, I had 2 miscarriages in a row at photography conventions. So I'm bleeding out at these photography conventions, feeling like a complete failure, but a brilliant artist. I can make art out of everything. I can make this scenario into art, and I am doing that now, right? Like talking about it. But when you have miscarriages and no baby, you're invisible because the baby doesn't exist. And I'm going to have a moment like you did, Dr. Linda, this year in March, for the first time in my life.
Wow.
I realized they were alive.
Yes. Yeah.
And that I didn't miss it.
Yeah.
I was not a failure.
No.
And I had 3 total.
Yeah.
Over the course of my journey.
Wow.
And I knew going into it, it was going to be a journey. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know how much it was going to hurt. And a lot of times we run from hurt, don't we?
Yeah.
We run from the pain. And until I started facing the pain, this is where the power came in.
Yeah.
And so in March, when I realized that my body is not a failure and that these babies exist, and I had some people I had amazing counselors that pulled me from the brink. And this one particular person, she had me imagine them, and she's like, where are they?
Right.
And I was like, oh, they're on the playground. And then I started imagining them because they all had names. I named every single one of them, including my human child.
Yeah.
And after that, within a couple of weeks, I started commissioning an artist to draw what I saw as my family that has been given to me. And so we have 4 children, 2 cats that have passed on and 2 cats that are living. They're all in this beautiful picture. And this is how I'm using art to heal me.
Yes.
I'm no longer silenced. I'm putting the words out there. I'm letting the vision speak for itself, even if it's only just for me, even if it's just for me. And so that's what has given me the courage. Back to the question here, what gave me the courage to share? Knowing that I'm not alone in all of this, and that I'm not the only one. I know that in 2015 and 16, I was going through it. At the time, I started sharing about it almost immediately because what else was I going to do? If I don't share it, I don't want to bottle it up anymore. So I found the courage and voice at that point. And then that's when slowly it got dark again. And then boom, I was re-released out with my fresh voice, knowing that I have value for the world here. I have a story to share. I have art to make. I have so much more art to make. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's where I'm at with that question, is like, my voice is valuable and my story is my story. And like you said, Linda, just this year have I discovered that I'm not a
Oh
failure.
yeah.
I have dropped 20 pounds just because of that shift, what God has showed me, that you are not a failure.
Mhm.
Yeah. So let me applaud you, ladies.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We're gonna go to a break so we could just take a pause for people who might have cried along, who was like, I'm gonna give y'all a break so I could come back. Okay, refresh so we can breathe. We're gonna take a short break here, and we'll be back. The journey started basically from I was 4 years old. When my mom, that's the age that I knew or had understanding of my surroundings and what was going on, and my mom therefore was children, and that's when I realized I didn't have my father. You don't know what you don't have until you realize what is in front of you isn't yours, and we were treated literally like dead children. You understand? But I thank God for the book and the journey. If you haven't read book one, you have to read book one. Book two to make sense because it's a flow and it's a sequence, and there will be a book three thereafter. I was trying to summarize it all and put it in the second book, but it didn't make sense. The book that's called The Shift basically talks about once I now got married, have a life, what I still went through. Alright, it was not a Cinderella story, it was not a Prince Charming story. It was a cycle that kept going, and I had to wake up from it. So I live to tell the story because I could be like the women that are on the side of the road. You see people that are out there prostituting or doing whatever. You don't know their story. No little girl got up and just said, okay, I want to be a prostitute. I want to just be on the street. I want to sell drugs. Nobody wakes up one day to connect it. It is the experiences that people have that causes certain things to end up happening. So as a Christian, first of all, you must be forgiving to people. So something happened. Sometimes I'm watching a lot of African movie. The young lady, that was her only way to be able to help her family. That was the route that she could take. Alright? So these journeys are hard. I was suicidal until I was 28 years old. And that's when I forgive myself. Everybody here, you have to want to live. If you are sick, you have to want to be well. So that's basically the journey. I'm growing. Now I turn my pain into purpose. I created new. All right, all right, all right. Turning our pain into purpose. We are back. We are back. We are back. As we continue, I hope that you've been blessed. And I pray that you go back and you go in the replay. If you missed anything, there might be a lot of nuggets that was dropped today. There was a word, a message in there for you. Just go back. What I love about social media is you can always go back. You can replay it and put it on replay until it get there. Right? Just let it sink in. Let it sink in. So we're going to just go dive right in as we continue into our next question. And this is to anyone who would like to answer. How do you differentiate between being private and being silenced? Private and silenced with a ED.
Private versus silenced. I think if somebody tells you that you can't tell it, right? If there's an external force, it doesn't even have to be a someone. It could be a something. Like I'm a PK. I grew up in the church. I think a lot of times in church, and even business and in entrepreneurship, the idea that you're not supposed to tell people the truth. It's like, tell them the truth that's cute, or tell them the truth that sounds good, but don't tell them how hard it really is.
Mm,
Um, so I think if it's ever external, if it's ever because you don't want other people to judge you or think that you're not good enough, then that's being silenced. For me, being private is more so about safety, right? So there are some things that I don't feel safe to share, and it
right.
doesn't mean that I'm being silenced. It just means this is not the space. Like, you walk in a room and maybe someone's like, "How you doing?" And you're like, "I'm good," but really you're like, "I'm exhausted. It took me
Right.
45 minutes to get here." There's just some places where you can go off and say, "Girl, I'm exhausted. It took me 45 minutes to get here." But there are also some times when it's just not the time.
Right.
And so you're not being silenced because you understand how to navigate relationships and you understand how to navigate safety. Um, I know for me, I had people who felt like I should not discuss certain aspects of my divorce. I had people who felt like in the book that I wrote, because it is a thought leadership book, it's called Snap Out of It. It's about kingdom women understanding not to play small. So people thought that there were certain parts of my story. I went through domestic violence as a young girl. I was sexually assaulted as a young woman. And so people were kind of surprised that they were hearing about these complex topics while I was talking about business and entrepreneurship.
Right.
um, but I think all of those things kind of play a part together. And so there are moments when your story needs to be told in the way that it needs to be told.
Right.
So then, as I always say, let it rip. My mom told me to let an email rip yesterday, and I sent that email so fast. She was like, "Mom, then you can let it rip," as my mom said.
So that's good. That's good. Ladies?
Yeah, I wrote something a little bit to this question, because where I was coming from was still in this same vein of sharing pieces of my story, and I was like, well, if I'm being private means I can still talk about it. I'm just not going to talk about it to every single person I know. Like you were just saying, like, it's like you don't need to share everything with everybody all the time. It's
Right.
kind of like save those for spaces that you feel are not only safe, but like, are they the right spaces to share these things? And for being silenced, I still see that as an external or sometimes an internal, like, shoving down of your voice. And so what I had kind of thought about was, to me, being silenced in this case of my story was I never open up, never share where I was coming from in culture or family or everything around you. And all of this around me was just saying, just be quiet, no one cares. So it was so easy to just be silenced by everything I heard and everything I talked to myself about too.
Yes.
And so when I think about being silenced, I think about it like that.
Yes.
I echo both responses. So the imposition of silence, as I mentioned, as a tool to enhance power and control, it exists. But we can also, in our own spaces, take a step back to reflect in our silence, be still, right? And one thing I want to convey very briefly is that boundaries are a way to keep you safe. And I will never stop saying this. I think I'm going to take it to the grave. And anytime that you say no to something, you're saying yes to yourself. But there are three types of boundaries. So the first one is, imagine the big wall. It's that very strong boundary. You don't share any information about yourself to others. It's on a need to know basis, even if that. So I'm going to compare it to working in the prison system. I used to work in the prison system, traveled to all, at the time, 13 correctional institutions, and I did direct work with incarcerated individuals and later on with returning citizens. The prison is not the place to share anything about yourself, because anything that you share about yourself, it will be used against you, and it can be used as a tactic to manipulate you. So my walls were high, and I always followed the internal policies and procedures. So I always tell anyone who wants to work in the prison system, know your policies, have your boundaries, don't show emotion, right? You want to have that wall. Next is when you're a little bit more open, right? But you can still maintain that boundary, but it's a little bit more porous. So it's almost like you're opening the door, but you can close it whenever you feel like it. And so with that boundary, the way that I think about it is, when you're in the office, right? You want to be able to connect with people. At the end of the day, we're all human, but there's certain things that you don't want to share, right? I can talk about coffee. I can talk about food. I can talk about one of my favorite movies. But I learned that whenever I talk about the favorite type of music that I listen to, I usually get the side eye, right? So that's something that I usually don't talk about, because people say, oh, you listen to that? I was like, yes, I do. So I stopped telling everyone the music that I listen to. And then there are people that navigate through the world as these beautiful butterflies that they can tell everything to anyone. And I love that. I love to see that because they feel safe enough to be open with the world. But I also fear for them because whenever we start talking from a place of pain, when a place of hurt, or we talk about our past experiences, particularly from a trauma perspective, we're giving people insider information that they can, and again, can and will use against us.
Hmm.
And so I'm always very careful. I like to keep my boundaries porous, but there are times that I have those walls up and it's like the Great Wall of China. I will not share anything.
Yeah.
I love it because I do have, like, I work with a lot of young people and they'll say things to me that I don't want to tell my husband because I know he can't keep a secret. He can't keep anything. So I just know I can't say anything to him about. So if something go out, the last person people going to think about is me. I mean, even if it's just a regular conversation, you want people to know if you tell me, you didn't tell me for people to know. I'm not, we use the expression, I'm not Channel 7 News, right? That's going to repeat it over and over till you get tired of it, right? But I remember there were times when in while you're worshiping, right, and you feel the presence of God, and I'm feeling like I shouldn't be feeling this because I'm not deserving of even feeling his presence, right? I'm overcome with joy and I'm in church and tears are flowing, right? I'll get home because he's a pastor. Why are you crying? People are going to think that I did something to you, yada, yada, stuff like that. So I was silenced.
Mm.
Then I had moments where I would just open up on what people knew. I told you they didn't know the rest of the stuff that's in my book. They just knew that incident had happened because the church knew, people knew. So I would go back to that place when I want to share with young women and tell them, I know these things are real. I know there is sexual traumas at home and it could be uncle, neighbor, just so they could feel comfortable that they could come and talk to me, right? Whenever I would share that, he'll come. I'm sick and tired of you telling this story. Aren't you embarrassed? Aren't you ashamed? Silenced. And I would cry. I was never one to be outspoken. To heal me, I got an answer for you.
Yes, I was
But then, just to save my truth, I would choke up and I would cry. Just to say a word. So I stayed silent. People would say, smile. You have a beautiful smile. Strangers will walk to me, what's wrong? Smile, woman. And I'm like, what's there to smile? Why? Because I had to be silent. I literally had a muffle on. If church ended and I shook somebody's hand too long, when I get home, what were you talking about? Why, So it was always monitor, monitor, monitor. So after a while, I realized, and I'm 18 years into this marriage. I got married young. I met him when I was 13. As I go through my healing journey, I realize he was manipulating the situation from the beginning. I just wasn't wise to it.
You
So
were young.
as I start to heal, that's when I start lifting those fingers off. I start taking care of myself. Never got my nails done because he didn't like it. Didn't dress a certain way because he didn't like it. I didn't have friends because he didn't like it. I didn't call family because, again, I was muted. So I saw that time as me living in a state of zombified. I went to church, I went to work, and I came home. I didn't do anything else. It wasn't until 17 years into our marriage that somebody mentioned, oh, I'm taking my wife out for anniversary dinner. We never went out. You could cook. Why you have to spend the money? All of these things was happening, and I just kept getting smaller and smaller. So for me, and when I tell this to people, they say, oh, I can't believe you could marry somebody that you didn't love. I was coming out of a situation. He was somebody I respected. He showed me a security. So I accepted that security blanket. He was the protection to stop a lot of bad things from happening because his presence was there. So I gravitated to that. But the more he did these things, the respect kept going away, 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 and away. Right? So I was silenced And I was living a private life because nobody knew. My family never knew what I was going through. Then I would be in church. I'm living a pretentious life, pretending to look like we have it all together. Okay? So I would pray and I would say, hey, pray for my family if you get wind of it. Why are you telling people to pray for our family? What's wrong with our family? You're what's wrong with our family, but you're making it seem like I'm the person that's wrong with the family. And when I say that, immediately, I'm sorry, was always apologizing for what I didn't do. So, like I said, I started pulling those fingers off. I saw separation. I grew up in a religious faith. I didn't see divorce as an option. You know, I come from 4 generations of women who were never married. They were the other women. And I said, it stops with me. I'm breaking that cycle. So, of course, I'm paving the way for everybody else. So I can't go and say divorce when I'm the one that broke the mold here to make the change. So I stuck it out for all of them before me and all of them that is coming from after and before. Okay? So when I talk about the silent and private, let's say, for example, when you see people go through a divorce, maybe they were married for 30 years. Do you know in that 30 years, they've been separated probably from 5 years in? So the last 25 years, they weren't married. Some people were just waiting for the kids to get out of college or whatever their reason is, and it happened. These things don't happen overnight. They had already happened. The world just found out about it. Okay? So today I've been married 32 years, and that 32 years we're going to have been divorced 3 times. But from year 18 to about 2 years ago, we were in the house together. The world saw us together, but we were not. So that's what I say private. You saw me, but you didn't know my private struggle. You understand? But I was finding myself. You talk about roaring at yourself in the mirror. My roar was from kitten to lioness. And whenever he said something, I would come back with a word. I've never wanted to be disrespectful, but I said, I don't like you saying that to me. And I stood my ground. I'm not going to let you destroy my life. I'm not going to. I kept talking and talking and talking. After a while, I started making my own friends. Because I needed my control. These are my friends. It took a lot to get where I am today. He's still not perfect, but he's got a deal. He's realized the kids are grown. At the end of the day, all you have is me, the person you didn't want to have around. So you got to be nice. Hello. You got to be nice to me. All right. So I say this because there's a lot of people that are watching us today. The marriage has been gone, and you've just been showing up. And I say this a lot. When you see people on social media showing these cute foot pictures and all of that, that was probably the best day they had that month. And we're judging. Oh, look at so-and-so's life. Not so. All right. So we're going to come down to our last question, everyone. This is not our regular, normal talks. We have more people on the panel, so it requires more time, or else I'll have to have episode 1 to 30. You know, we can't do all of those episodes in one. So the last question here is, what would you say today to the version of yourself that stayed quiet to survive?
I've been inspired, and I didn't want to interject as you were speaking, but there was this thought that came through, and I had to write it down. Essentially, shame stops you from the greatness of your own creation. Shame stops you from the greatness of your own creation. The more shame we carry, the less likely we are to be able to establish our goals, accomplish our goals, be creative in our space, because we begin to feel unworthy. We begin to feel that nothing that we do matters. We begin that shame is this ugly feeling that takes us away from our highest vibration, which is joy. It's the, and I don't want to get too spiritual here, but joy,
get spiritual. This is a platform to get spiritual.
Yeah.
Joy and gratitude to me are the lines to be closest to God in
Yeah, oh
prayer.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, whenever you have that shame, whenever you're carrying that mental and emotional exhaustion, which I've seen in trauma or in burnout, you're
Yes.
not able to establish that communication line. You're not able
Hmm.
to receive because in the vibrational language, you're just in a very low state.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that God is not there. That doesn't mean that God is not paying attention to you. That doesn't mean that God is not helping you. Is
Right.
that you are in a space where you cannot get that information.
Nope.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
true. And that's where I was for 18 years.
Wow. Yeah.
For 18 whole years. And one day, you know, it took the trigger of my childhood to say, it stops. This is it. I'm done. I'm tired of carrying this. I love people. I'm a people person, but you wouldn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no way. Really? You used to be what? You used to be over the youth group. You used to be the one to have them go to the beach and have beach parties. You used to what? Where is it? What happened to her?
Mm-hmm.
She was gone. I used to read books that I would look for the thickest book in the library because I know guaranteed. I escaped. Everybody was living real lives. I was living real life, taking care of home from the age of 6, younger siblings. That was real life. Girls were playing dollhouse. I was really cooking and cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my only escape was in books. So I found the thickest book to read. And then I share what I learned or what I wanted that. And I think about the romance that I see in the Harlequin. I used to love those as a teenager. I'm like, what happened? Did I miss that? I said, I'm a romantic. How come I got the short end of the stick?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought I had enough love in me, and that love is what carried. But you're right. I was at a low frequency.
Mm.
I knew God was there, but I was at a low frequency. And whenever that frequency increased, I couldn't believe that He would come to my level because there goes the unworthiness again.
Yeah.
What's been said from a child into adult. All
Yeah.
right. So, again, like I said, this is still a continuation of the Emerging in Power. We're real here, you know, to be real because we have real individuals, people that are watching us, that are going through these experiences, and they need to hear this. And
Mm-hmm.
as we speak, we need to hear
Yeah.
it, believe it or not, because we're planting positive seeds, okay?
Yeah.
It's like a flower that was growing in a place that it shouldn't plant. Everybody see those plants?
Yeah.
Shouldn't be in the environment that it's in, but it thrive to come up. But the environment will not let it be great
Mm-hmm.
unless somebody take it out and transplant it and repot it into another environment for it to fully become who it is. And that is what God literally had to do for me.
And He will give signals too. But
Oh
sometimes
my
we don't
gosh.
listen, or we
Oh
fight
yeah.
it, or
Yeah.
we are being stubborn, or we
Mhm.
think we know better.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you become obedient to when you have that feeling of, I don't belong here, nothing I do is going to fix the situation, and
Yeah.
you are strong in your faith and you have that confidence, you're walking in your light and not in your shame, and you
Yes.
remove yourself, that's when you allow the space to come in front and center and let God do His work.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. That's why you see everything I do is the butterfly. Because I came from the caterpillar. I almost died in the cocoon. But
Mm.
now, you can't tell me nothing. I'm at a point like I am so confident. I was so low self-esteem. I wear confidence like a garment. It's not the hair, it's not the nails. I could go to Walmart and walk out of there like I just came out of Vogue.
Yeah.
It's the confidence.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I go thrifting, and I say this all the time. You would dare to say that's a dress that came off a thrift rack. Why? Because the confidence that exude It is so powerful. All right. And when people say, I love you, I say, no, you're saying that now, but you didn't say that 10 years ago. It's because I'm loving me now.
But
All
yeah,
right. And that's what's exuding and that's what you connecting to. Don't get it twisted.
yeah,
You know, it's because I am now loving me. All right. So
yeah.
we're going back to this. So the version of yourself today, okay? What would you say today to the version of yourself that stayed quiet to survive? Speak to her.
That I you said something that I think is extremely powerful. I think culture likes to make it seem like if you like yourself, that it's a negative thing. But there are a lot of studies and tons of use cases and even scriptures that talk about how important the way you see yourself is to the way that you interact with other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of like guided meditations with my clients where they talk to themselves or they hug themselves or they interact with themselves because there's so much work that can happen when you really learn to, like you said, love yourself, like
Mm-hmm.
yourself, give yourself compassion, take away blame. There's so much that can happen in that space. So I love this question. I think the version of me who was silent to survive. She was saying all the wrong things in her thoughts, but all the right things with her mouth. And even Marquila today, I'm really learning to teach myself how to embody what I really believe. Take the things that you think and the things that you believe, and like you said, wear it as a garment. What does it really look like to think the way that you're talking? Because if you really think that God loves you and it's unconditional, and there's nothing that you can do to receive that love other than just agreeing that it's yours, then stop making it your responsibility to check off boxes or to accomplish things or to make people feel safe or to make people feel comfortable, and just agree with what you say out your mouth. Because I know for years of my life, there were things that I was saying that sounded right, but I would negate them right away in my mind, and I couldn't embody what I was saying out my mouth because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
believe it in my heart and in my mind. So I do the imagination work says, okay, let me, well, yes, embodying, right? Believing what you say out your mouth, not just using words as a way to sound good in front of people, but actually believing what you're saying with your heart and with your head, creating that. There's a coach who I love. She's a full body yes. I wish that the version of me who felt like she had to be silent understood that I could give myself a full body yes, and the cookies that crumbled and the people who had to go away, or the things that I had to navigate as a result of my yes to myself, were also beautiful. Like we all the time look at like our negative situations or the time it takes for us to get to where we're supposed to be as a negative thing. But God has really showed me like the hard times, the years of confusion, the chaos, all of the stuff that really is
Mm-hmm.
comfortable to talk about. That's really where the beautiful stuff gets created. And so in my difficult moments, in the moments where things were trying to silence me, I can look back at those spaces now and say, man, I learned so much about how to love myself in that moment. That was the low, right? Like that was the bottom. So now the ceiling as a result of that, I was very low. That was my floor in that moment, or my basement. So
Right.
now the opposite of that is I get to be the type of Marquila who can show up in the world, who can give compassion to other people because I give it to myself first. I can love people without frills because I love myself without frills first. And all of that embodiment, it only comes because I believe that what I was saying was actually real with my heart and my mind.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna borrow one of my trophies here and say to you, congratulations.
Thank you.
You've made it. You have emerged.
Yeah, yes. And like you're saying, I might have been quiet before, but now I don't know. Even before I was cussing my ex-husband out, he was acting crazy, and I was acting crazy with him. But now there's a freedom to what I say, and it's not just
That's
noise.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yes. Thank you so much. That was just definitely beautiful. Jen?
Yeah, so I'm taking myself back to the Jen that I am envisioning who was in that really dark place and felt really alone and isolated. And I would say to that Jen right there in that moment, you are not alone. I see you. And I think there is something powerful about being seen. And I opened up a talk one time about, hey, it's nice to see you. Because even now, I can still struggle with those things that come up that say, well, nobody is seeing you right now, so you're invisible. And I went through this long season of invisibility, and I just felt like nobody sees anything at all. But I would go back to her and say, I see you. And you definitely aren't alone sitting there on the floor crying, and you can't figure out why you can't stop crying, because I see it. And I know there's people dealing with that right now. It was never just me. And I also wrote down, there's something powerful about being seen and known as who you are, your truest identity to the core of who you have been made to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's power in the knowing of that. So knowing yourself, knowing others, knowing God. That's it. If I ever was to win an award, that's what I want to go out
Oh,
knowing.
let me get you one. You ain't got to worry. I'm giving you
I gotta
one.
get me a trophy.
Don't
for that.
worry.
I want to know myself. I want to know other people. I want to know God, because all of it works together because we're all connected. And
Yes.
that's what I would continue to tell myself that was struggling at that moment, the darkest moment I could ever think of. And knowing that even in that moment, still connected, was not alone, was never disconnected. So, yeah.
So that takes me to my first book that talks about Shemergence, I am she. You have emerged, okay? I got to get you a shirt. So we'll talk about all of this later so I can get to everyone that has participated in this virtual conference. You have emerged. You have come away from. All right. So you are Shemergence.
Yeah.
You have emerged. Amen. Dr. Rivera?
Yeah, so the one thing that I want to say is for anybody who is with a very dark moment in your life right now, and you're seeing us as individuals who have emerged, or from my experience, you can learn something from it. There's a couple of things. Don't allow a traumatic incident define who you are or your identity. Don't fall a victim again of wearing that victim blanket over you, because you're more than just a label victim.
Yeah.
You are a survivor. You will get to the point where you will become a thriver, a healer, and an alchemist. You will be able to alchemize the pain into something wise. And so it's going to take time. It can take years. Make sure that you're connected with mental health counseling. Make sure that in the event that you cannot connect with a direct therapist, there are women's programs or shelters out there that have counselors who can work with you.
Yes.
And, they work on a particular scale. So it could be depending on what you can afford.
Right.
So the services are out there. Don't restrict yourself thinking, oh, I'm never going to be able to heal or move on.
Mhm.
Also, if you happen to have a history of sexual victimization, the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network has a chat availability that is completely anonymous. And so you can share what happened to you. You can disclose the incident. Nothing is going to affect you. They're not going to reach out to the police. It is a space for you to let it out, and they
Right.
can give you resources. And in that website, there is centers.rain.org, where you can look for organizations in different states, and you can connect with those organizations that can provide you with that level of support. Now,
Yes.
I am a burnout coach. I treat burnout in the same trauma informed lens as I would have with working with victims. So if you are managing those symptoms of burnout, feel free to reach out. I am here for you.
All right. Well, you heard it here on Emerge and Empower as we are running the Shemergence Virtual Conference. Now, if you found any of my guests to be relatable, do reach out. You can inbox me so I could get you in touch with their information. If you watch my pages, LinkedIn and Facebook and even Instagram, you'll be able to see their bio and their links so that you could be in touch with them, especially if they are in your area and you want to see someone in person. But remember, you can also do it virtually and you could be anywhere in the world and still connect and get the healing that you need right on your sofa, right in your bed, wherever you are sitting at a park. You can have someone come right there and just, mentor you, empower you, help you. And burnout, guys, is stress. It's very disabling and it causes so much more, even especially if you have unresolved trauma. And then with burnout, I don't know what to say. That's just a recipe for disaster there. So let's heal. Let's heal for real, right? Start. Don't say, I don't know how. Start. Start by talking. Now, if you've talked and you say nothing has happened, I'm still hurting, it's because there's more to it. You have to go to the next step. You got to keep moving in this journey of healing. It is not spontaneous. It's not overnight. Even though we live in a microwave society, it's not. You have to take time and invest in your healing. Amen. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, ladies, for being here on the set on today. I really want to thank you. And you have definitely shared your personal journeys and also the experiences that are out there, whether you're at work, home, whatever situation. I believe we've covered every topic, all right, on today. Grief, loss, pain, after the fact, even when you're behind bars and you're still, because a lot of reason why people go behind bars is because we have too much unresolved issues and we feel anger, rage, all of these different things that we're lashing out. Let's heal for real. All right, don't explode. Let's bring that down so you could go into your journey for healing. So thank you for watching and we'll be back next week. Bye bye. Wow, 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 wow. What a powerful segment. What a powerful segment. And I can't wait. I can't wait for the other women that will be coming on and men because remember, this platform of emergence are not just female. All right, even for our men. So I want to thank each and every one of you as you have been here for session 2 of the Shemergence Virtual Conference. I want to thank you for following along with this segment and our virtual conference, your engagement, support, and participation to make this journey meaningful and impactful. All right. Your shares, your giving, everything that you do has made a difference. Thank you so much. And we'll be back next week for more. Yay! Every Tuesday, remember, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Feel like I should have been on this conference. It's not too late. All right. Some could not make it, but the seats are still here. There's 1 or 2 seats that's still available. So just go to inbox me and we'll get you in touch with what you need to continue on this healing journey. Until next time, thank you so much for watching the Shemergence Virtual Conference on Emerge and Empower. Bye.